Welcome to the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom with Dan Breslin.
Welcome to the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom. I'm Dan Breslin, and on these REI Diamond Interviews, I bring you the real estate investment community's brightest minds. Today I'm here with a special guest, Bill Kratz. I've known Bill for a couple years. Bill is a licensed real estate broker and CEO of Revo Realty Group located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for those of you listening around the country. First and foremost, Bill Kratz is a real estate investor, landlord, rehabber. He does some off-market wholesale deals, on-market wholesale deals, and he basically specializes in helping buyers and sellers save thousands of dollars. So, Bill, welcome to the call.
Good to be here, Dan.
So let's figure out, how did you get into the real estate business? Did you do anything before this? Let's figure out how you got started here, Bill.
Okay, so basically, I started from the bottom. No one was doing real estate in my family. Well, my mom was getting involved in real estate in about 2007, and she had purchased a house at a sheriff's sale. I was doing a totally different business at the time. I was an event planner, moved from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, was doing pretty well with that, and things just started to not go so well. And as I was coming home, she had purchased this house, and it was a total disaster. She asked for my help, and I decided to jump in. I always had a curiosity for real estate investing, and that was our first deal pretty much. We ended up losing a couple of grand, and that just really inspired me to figure out more about this real estate investment thing and started to join local communities around Philadelphia. From there, got involved with wholesaling in 2008 and did exclusively wholesaling for about 2 years there. Probably did over 100 of those transactions. Also purchased a few rental properties during that time and flipped a few houses. In 2010, I got my real estate license because I started to realize with all this lead generation that we're doing, I'm throwing so much money in the trash away because I don't have a real estate license, and not everyone wants to take, my very low offer as an investor. So started doing that. 2013 rolls around, go back to school, get my broker's license, and then ultimately started my own real estate brokerage. But I am a real estate investor first, a very active landlord, flip a few houses every year, and I run a real estate brokerage in my spare time.
Nice. So how do you go about funding your fix and flip projects, Bill? You do a few. So how many is a few, and how do you go about getting the money put together for those?
Got you. So for my flip projects, we probably do about 3 to 4 a year of those ones, and the rest are just buy and holds. We do about 12 of those every year. The money comes from a couple of different sources. Number one, I have an established relationship with a local lender. I have a few properties that I tied a line of credit on. So I use line of credit, very low interest, probably 3.75% every time I use it. Thing is, with that line of credit, it's not millions and millions of dollars. It runs out pretty rapidly, and when that happens, I tap that line. I have an extensive network of private lenders that are basically, throwing money at me to do these deals, and there's really no shortage of money. If anything, it's a shortage of deals for me at this point. We also have relationships with several different hard money lenders just in case we couldn't find a private lender for a better price. So the money has never really been the issue for us.
Let's talk about the network of private lenders, Bill. I know that's like pretty much the panacea. Most people believe that the money is the thing that stops anybody from getting into the business. I'm of the mindset that it's the deals that are in short supply, but I guess that's because, like you, have developed a network of private lenders and hard money lenders and ways to get the deals funded. So how did you build up your money list, your private money list, Bill?
I really am a firm believer, like you are, in that the deal will bring you everything. If you were just getting started in this business as a wholesaler, you have no experience, and there's this fear of not being able to find money and all of this other stuff, don't let those thoughts in your head consume you and stop you from going after your goals. I'm telling you right now, if you focus all of your energy into going out there and finding deals, everything else will come with it, even experience. So let's say, for example, you have no experience as a wholesaler, but you have the time of day, the energy, and the hunger to go out and find a good wholesale deal. What you can find is somebody who will come to the table and bring their experience and partner with you on that deal, and you share profits. You can do something like that. Or when you're just getting started, you can bring that deal to buy yourself into a 50-50 joint venture or some sort of profit-sharing scenario where you bring the deal, they bring the money, and you get paid a percentage, based on what you can negotiate at the end of the deal. Or if you already have experience, you have the deal, you have a good track record, it should be no problem. The deal speaks to the investor. A private investor really doesn't want to speak to you too much if you don't have a deal with numbers and something to offer that person. But, the deal brings everything for sure.
Yeah, that's right on point. I mean, I remember being the guy running around trying to find the money first. I felt like, I had to secure I felt like I had to approach somebody I knew with money. And I remember hearing about this guy who we were trying to get some things started. And one of his friends was like one of the family owners of like a large waste management type business. So we thought like, if we could just get this guy to commit to funding our deals, then and only then could we go out and we would just start buying houses. But in reality, when the rubber met the road for me, I ended up, just like you said, I had the time of day. I wholesaled, low-end deal in a rough drug-infested neighborhood. I did another one in that neighborhood, and then by the second one, we ended up co-wholesaling my private lender, who I still fund deals and do deals with to this day. He ended up finding a buyer for this burned-out shell in the same drug-infested neighborhood. It was like as a joke, He asked me like at the networking event, he said, "Yeah, do you got anything working?" I'm like, "Dude, this guy's got a freaking burned-down house in Chester." And he looks at me, he says, "I think I have a buyer for that." It's like $13,000 assignment later. By the fourth deal, I did exactly what you said, Bill. And I brought a deal to him, and I said, "Here's how we're going to do this. You're going to bring the money. I got the deal. We're going to turn around and sell it, and we're going to split the profits 50-50. And he says to me, push back, "Why don't we just assign it?" I said, "Listen, I don't need you to assign this deal. I came to you with the idea of, so I had to, when the time comes negotiating that position, I had to, know what course of action that I wanted that deal to go in when I brought that deal to the private lender. And, not every person's going to go for that deal that you may bring to that person for a 50-50 split. But he did, and we ended up, moving forward and having a profitable relationship even to this day. So do you also fund your rental properties using private money, Bill, or are you kind of running on your own cash, refinancing? What's the structure of putting together the rentals?
So with the rentals, it's the same situation, line of credit, private money. It's short term, so we use the line of credit or the private money or the hard money to purchase the property, renovate the property, and within the first 6 months, we will refinance with a local lender, pull all money out, and then repeat process. That is our whole entire operation. We want to buy the house with the private money, fix it up, refinance after the tenant's in place, and pay back that private lender, use the funds again on a different house, and it's a cookie-cutter operation over and over and over pretty much.
Do you take title in an LLC or your own name for each of these, or a corporation?
Okay, so in our business, we have an LLC for all of our rental properties and houses that we flip, just one LLC at this point. There comes a time where you might have to have different LLCs. If you start buying 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 properties, we'll have different LLCs once we hit a certain number. But we have that one. We have a separate LLC for our real estate brokerage. So in my opinion, if you're buying rentals, it probably is a good idea to think about the structure that you hold properties in. And the biggest reason for us is financing. According to guidelines with mortgages and everything, in your personal name, you may only be able to get up to 10 properties in your name. But with an LLC commercial financing, now I can buy 50, 100, 150 little row homes and never have an issue with financing. So, that's the big thing. For me, we buy in volume. We buy these really cheap lower end properties. So we have to have volume in order to make our numbers work. But I guess for those who may just be new at this and you're ready to buy one property, I don't think it's necessary to just jump in and say, oh my God, I need to have an LLC. With adequate insurance, you should be covered from most of any liability you'll have on one of your rental properties. I've spoken to attorneys, accountants on this. So it could be a wise idea, and always talk to an attorney or an accountant, to just start with one or two properties in your own personal name. And one of the biggest reasons I suggest that is because what happens in 6 months when you buy a house, you put a tenant in there, that tenant becomes the most awful person in the world. You decide that you absolutely hate being a landlord. You sell the property and you quit the business. You know, you can save that money from not having the LLC and all of that stuff there. So, you know, give it a try. Same with wholesaling. I get a lot of questions. Do I need to have an LLC to be a wholesaler? And in my opinion is, when you're getting started, is usually no, but you know, everyone is a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a fan of like figure out how to make some money and then go see, you know, test the idea. Does this work for me? Just like you said, and before I go running off and putting together those corporate structures. I've watched countless new investors. I got my LLC, and they're bright and starry-eyed, and they come to the networking event, the ring meeting, or, you know, you see them at Dig, and I got my LLC, I'm ready to go. But, like, they never mastered lead generation. They never mastered the ability to analyze a deal. They never did any of those things, and they kind of invested all those resources, time, and the money, thinking that it was the LLC they needed. And, you know, it's just kind of a common mistake I see, a little bit of a newbie mistake. Not that I'm suggesting one way or the other you need them or don't need them. I'm not giving law advice here, but I just see that people make that mistake. I'm sure you do too. Bill, you said the number one reason for your LLC was financing. Can you describe, do you package these rentals like, you know, you do them one-off and refinance them in a package of one, or do you wait till you have 3 or 5 or 10? I mean, when does the refinance happen to cash out your private lenders on those deals?
It's a great question. Right now we're doing a 4-property refinance package, and for us it really all depends on how much inventory we have at the time of a refinance. If at all possible, we like to blanket as many properties as we can into one refi, depending on what that particular bank's guidelines are. The big reason is you can save a ton of money on time and fees by just doing one package refi. As far as, you know, the initial application process, the questions back and forth, you can cut down on fees. There's just a lot of advantages to actually bundling up multiple properties in one package. Definitely, if you're buying, you know, a lot of properties in 1 year, you want to consider a strategy of trying to bundle a few together each and every time.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bill. So I noticed that a lot of investors that I talked to, actually I was talking with one of the investors on a previous podcast, Joe Nielsen, and he has, you know, upwards of 70, 80 properties, somewhere in that neighborhood, and he owns every single property in his own name. I was blown away. I mean, it's, you know, it was just like you said. I mean, the insurance is what he feels is his protection. He's got a large liability umbrella, and I guess that's kind of the way that some investors get around that liability that the LLC normally protects you from.
There's a guy in Philadelphia who owns over 500 properties in his personal name, and it just blows my mind that that he can have that many in his name, and he's that confident.
Gentleman owns 500 properties, and they're all in his own name.
Okay, so yeah, they're all in his own name, and it just goes to show that basically, you know, there's no right, there's no wrong. You know, talk to people out there and see what their logic is, and come up with the pros and cons, and you ultimately have to make an assessment based on your own risk tolerance and, move forward from there pretty much.
Nice. So are you a Section 8 guy, or are you one of the investors that does not like Section 8, Bill?
Right, and that's something I'm glad you brought up, and I think before we even touch on that, I think it's important for everyone to understand is that all investors have opinions. Most of us have strong opinions, and there's no right, there's no wrong. And it's extremely important to understand that the most successful investors have found a niche, and they have crafted this niche and have fine-tuned it so that they become very successful. So that being said, I know people who are extremely successful with Section 8. I know people that hate it. I know people that hate student housing. I know people that make tons of money with student housing. I know people that only do high-end properties and people that only do low-end properties. And there's just no right and no wrong. It just depends on what you're comfortable with, what you spot the opportunity in, and then from there develop in the niche. So that's something to really take away and think about, not just in landlording, but in your real estate investing career in general is, how can you niche yourself to become more successful faster? So for me, yes, I'm a big proponent in Section 8 in Philadelphia. It works well. We get, higher than average rents in our neighborhoods. We have accountability, vouchers in the city. There's probably a waiting list of 100,000. So it's a very coveted thing to have. And, it's something that they can lose if they're not treating the house properly and if we stay on top of things. So, that's one reason. 2-year minimum leases with the Philadelphia Housing Authority. And we found that there's some really good people on Section 8, contrary to popular belief. And the program has worked well for us. Even the yearly inspections, we don't have a problem with it. The negative about Section 8, just to give both sides to it, is the red tape. It probably takes us at least 30 days extra to fill a vacancy or to get a property occupied because of all the paperwork and the back and forth and the rent negotiations and things like that. So that's one of the big hassles you have to deal with is that, you go on PHA's time, not your time when you want to fill the unit. Other than that, if you're the type of investor that does really good rehabs and you do it right and you're trying to give a good product to the best tenant possible, Section 8 is great. If you're of the other mindset where you literally have a paint the dirt philosophy and you're going to do the bare minimum to get a tenant, you're going to have nothing but problems because your tenant pool will give you exactly what you put into that house. So you're going to get a bad tenant, and you'll also have problems from the Section 8 department constantly flagging you for issues with the house. So we've kind of carved the niche with Section 8, and it's working well for us.
Nice. Do you self-manage, Bill?
Self-manage. I'm of the mindset that in order to teach somebody else how to do something, you must be a master at it first. So at the end of the day, the goal is not to manage our own properties forever, but we do need to know exactly what we're looking for, what we want in a tenant, know the process. So when we delegate that task, we'll know exactly what to look for and pick the right person to get the job done.
Speaking of picking the right person to get the job done, can you give us a couple tips for selecting the cream of the crop tenants? You mentioned condition, but I imagine there's a few other things you've picked up along the way, Bill?
Yep, definitely. So first and foremost is your product. You have to view the house as a product. When you do a nice renovation, and I'm not saying you have to go high-end granite and do all this stuff, but nice means good rental grade for the area and what a tenant expects. You're not cutting corners with the renovations. You paint, you do nice floors, and if the windows are old, you replace them. That is going to attract the cream of the crop tenant, number one. I think also a lot of the due diligence goes up front in your ads. We try to screen people right from the door. We do background checks. We do current home visits. So if you're not comfortable with these things, do not apply. So we try to weed out a lot of the people we don't want by putting things in the ad that might scare them away, right from the door. So one of our biggest screening tips, which Joe Nielsen may have talked about, maybe not, but we go to every tenant's house before approving them once they get to a certain point in the process. So, if we sit down with them a few times and they look like they're a good candidate, we tell them up front, at some point we're going to have to come see where you live. If that's a problem, let's just cut it short now. So we'll actually go out to the house, see how they were living before, because I believe that 3 months down the road, my house is going to look like that house. And that has, really helped us, number one, screen tenants from, if they don't let us, then we don't go any further. And it also kind of gives us a good feeling about, what we're getting with the tenant. And I think a lot of it is just spending time around a person, getting to know them, how do they answer your questions? Like I always ask, what's your situation while you're moving, and depending on the answers you get, it's just a process like anything else when dealing with people. And always do background checks and credit. In our world, in Section 8, the credit score doesn't really matter, but the judgments on the score do. If someone has 5 judgments for cable and electric and water, that there's an issue there, but we don't really care about the score per se. We just want to know what's on there. We'll do the eviction and background checks as well.
Bill, you mentioned the water judgments, and I personally do, and if anybody on the call doesn't know, in Philadelphia, and I believe in Chicago as well, water is lienable, so that's like an issue for landlords. I mean, how do you address that with your tenants and your portfolio?
Right. So at this point, we put the water in the tenant's name, and then we just monitor it every month, make sure it's getting paid. But you do have to be very aware of what's going on. If you don't have the process in the system to check for it every month, the bill can go on and on and on, and you end up getting stuck for it. So with the Philadelphia folks on here, PGW is the same way. It liens with the property, but there is a landlord cooperation program that you can get on and get your properties listed so they can never lien you for gas in the city of Philadelphia.
Bill, what's your process for following up and monitoring water? Because I imagine they could probably, in another market, somebody could sort of duplicate whatever you're doing in Philly, right?
Right. So, the Philadelphia Water Department, we get the notices if a bill isn't being paid. And, that's one thing. And the other thing, we have a database. It's for real estate brokers, but a real estate investor can use it. So if you have Podio, Top Producer, any sort of lead management software or whatever it is that you use in your business, we put a monthly reminder. Every month, log on to the site, check to make sure the water's getting paid. And, it's nothing more complicated than a simple reminder and something that triggers you to take action so you don't have to mentally remember everything.
Got it. So I think I'm going to switch gears a little bit here in the interview, and I want to talk a little bit about it. So I know that I've been frustrated in the past when I went to work with real estate agents, and I feel, just like you said, everybody with the investor business, with the real estate investment business side of things, you got to kind of pick a niche. And a lot of times I've met, when I was less experienced, just getting started, I didn't realize that real estate agents were supposed to or the successful agents pick a niche, and I would basically find newer agents who had just gotten their license and, they try to serve everybody. And I never, it took me a while to realize that there's kind of investor agents. And when you're starting to need the services of a broker, at least in my own experience as an investor, I wanted to deal with somebody, and found it easier to deal with somebody who had been through, the emotions, the process of flipping a property, the process of owning rental portfolio and things of that nature. Somebody who's been through the process of buying a property correctly. And I think that you've established the fact that you are that guy, and you've done a number of deals to kind of like prove that. So let's switch over to the Revo Realty Group and your experience as a real estate broker serving investors. Can you tell me a little bit about just your take on the entire real estate industry and how things are done right now, Bill?
Yeah, definitely. And, just to kind of start in general for everyone out there that either is a rehabber or a wholesaler, there's a couple of things to think about. For the rehabbers, it's extremely important that you never rely 100% on any after repaired value that a realtor gives you. At the end of the day, you put your money and butt on the line for every deal that you do. So make sure that the ultimate decision in the after repaired value and the number you base your offer on comes from your own due diligence and your own mind. And, feel free to, have your agent chime in with some input, to try to bring you in check, but you have to be comfortable with that number. For wholesalers, when working with real estate agents, I personally think you are in the total wrong place to call an agent to get listings sent to you to try to find potential wholesale deals. The biggest reason is you have to think when you make an offer to a property that's listed, that listing agent is legally bound by a seller contract to represent the best interest of the seller. So when you come in with your wholesale agreement and it has the contractor clause in there and all of these other contingencies to get out, it makes your offer look really weak. So I'm of the firm mindset for wholesalers, the best thing you can do is find the off-the-market private deals that no realtor or anyone else knows about. You get there first, and if you need a buyer, you call a realtor to do a flat fee listing or bring one of their buyers in. So that's first and foremost. But another thing with the real estate industry in general, there's a big problem, at least in my mind, and this is really will strike with the developers and rehabbers, is that if you're selling, let's just take a $300,000 house, at the repaired value, putting on the market. When you pay that 6% commission, that's actually $18,000 of your hard-earned money, hard-earned equity, and cash profits out of your deal every time you sell a house. And that's an extreme amount of money. And remember, this is coming from somebody who is a licensed real estate broker. I do tons of these deals. And, I, for myself, couldn't figure out, once I got started in all this, why is it so expensive? So, we use technology in our business to, cut the costs down for real estate investors. Used to be exclusively. Now we've opened up to the general public as well. And we feel that it shouldn't cost you guys that much to sell. So if you think about it, for an investor, and when you're working with a realtor, you have to think, you renovated that house, it's vacant, it's beautiful, you probably know what that house is going to sell for better than your realtor does. All you need that person to do is pretty much list it and manage the transaction, negotiate, and just, take over that portion of the sale for you. It's crazy. You guys really do have the easiest homes on the market to sell. And it's a secret that most realtors don't want you to know is that the MLS really is the holy grail of property advertising. The big reason for that is it serves as the central hub for where all of the listings end up going on the internet. So when you see a property on realtor.com, Trulia, Zillow, and all these other places where, by the way, 90% of all home buyers are searching the internet, it all comes directly from the MLS. So as a listing agent, I always hire professional photographers. So that's tip number one. If your agent isn't hiring a professional photographer on each of your listings, fire that person immediately and get somebody else, or make them get professional photos. That's extremely important to the process. It's your first impression, and professional photographers have the tools to make your listing look amazing. So once you have the professional photos, I put the property in the MLS, it automatically in Philadelphia syndicates to over 1,000 websites without the realtor having to do any of this work. Now, a lot of these guys will tell you, I'm doing all this work for you, and I have this magic selling potion, and poof, this is what you're paying me $18,000 for, but it's not the case. The MLS costs a licensed real estate agent less than $300 a year total, and that's literally what sells houses. I put it up there, and days later, if it's priced right with the condition and location, you have a flood of buyers, the property sells itself, and you pretty much just need me to fill in the blanks with the agreement of sale and manage the transaction. And, I just don't think it should cost $18,000. So that's the basis behind Revo Realty Group, and we have a couple of different ways for sellers to save that money instead of spending it on each flip they do.
I'm sure we got a couple agents pissed off at you and me right now.
Yeah, probably. And what we all have to realize, that I'm not out here to, say anything bad about real estate agents. First thing first, and I'm glad you brought that up, good realtors are absolutely 100% worth their weight in gold. Every single investor should have one, if not more, on their team. And even if you do pay that person 6%, they're still worth their weight in gold. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So, it's important to know that. So take good care of that agent, especially if they're the ones that bring you the deals off the market. I would expect a 6% commission in that scenario. So that's one thing to consider. So, definitely realtors are worth their weight in gold. But here's the problem. According to a recent Google consumer survey, 67.5% of Americans distrust real estate agents. And one of the biggest reasons is in Pennsylvania, it is a law that all real estate agents disclose to the consumer before doing any business that all commissions are negotiable and services to be rendered. So there's no such thing as a standard 6% in the first place. It's all, just hocus pocus. It doesn't exist. So my thing is, consumers deserve to know, because it's required by law, that they have other options. It's not when you pay 6% or pay less. It's not to get what you pay for, or you're not getting anything extra, by paying more. It's that you should know and be fully educated on the laws and what your options are. So that's how we're trying to bring truth to the light with the whole thing.
Yeah, and I believe on the flip side, Bill, so I utilize an agent or two on some of my retail flips, and it's kind of somebody who's involved with the partnership, but she definitely does a lot more follow-up, and she participates in a lot more retail transactions. So she's even representing us as the seller side. So I'm just going to go if we're doing a pros and cons thing with the flat fee. So for me, it helps that she has different relationships with a lot of the buyers' agents. So she's done deals with a lot of the other people, and she's able to kind of leverage her, her contact base on certain deals for us. And then I also do a lot of flat fee listings as well. And I would say that, and I'm not sure what level of negotiation service you provide with the flat fee listing, but I know that most flat fee listings across the country, you're getting next to no negotiation representation. So, Bill, I know for a fact that you're a much better negotiator than somebody who's never participated, in 100, 150 plus off-market deals, and, the amount of properties you purchased, the amount of, transactions that you've participated in comparison to somebody who, maybe just getting started in a business and hasn't. Do you have any suggestion, So the investor who's great at negotiating, I think, would be wise to kind of invest in the flat fee listing. And then do you kind of have any suggestions? Are there any people that probably should maybe just think about getting their hands, in a good relationship and sticking with the full service way of doing business?
I would say that, yes. Really what you have to think about is, do you want to be hands-on or hands-off with the transaction? Do you mind being belly up with buyer's agents? Do you have the time to deal with it? Are you comfortable with the negotiations? If you are not, then, the flat fee is not for you. If you don't have the time of the day and you don't want to deal with it, delegate that task and pay for it. But for me, people often get confused. I have 3 different options. I do a traditional full service, just like any other realtor, just for a better price. We do everything soup to nuts. We have a flat fee option where it's for the do-it-yourselfer, someone who wants to put in all the sweat equity into the listing and save the most amount of money. And then we have one option in between where it's a total virtual listing, but it's full service, where send out the photographer, we help you comp it out, we put it on the market, we do full negotiations, we prepare you for settlement, and that's it. So I'm a firm believer, when I sit down with a client, I say, what's your situation? What works best for you? Here are the pros and cons, and you pick which way you want to save. And I'll say that, it's much more complicated than that. But yes, for simple sake, flat fee versus full service, you have to figure out how much time and willingness you have to negotiate and deal with the listing. And one other thing that you touched on with the negotiating experience and leveraging contacts and things like that. Now, my idea is this: when you're an investor selling your houses, your number one marketing source and way to leverage contacts of all other realtors in your area that have buyers is what you offer the buyer's agent through the MLS system. So a lot of investors, when they want to list properties, although they're saving thousands with me, they want to only offer 2.5% to the buyer's agent. Now, a buyer's agent traditionally likes to see 3% on the listing. So when you cut that even 0.5% off, agents are not supposed to do this, but sometimes they put the money before their own ethics, and they'll show your house last, or they will try to steer, a buyer in another direction because that house has a 3% offering. So the buyer's agent might work harder to get that one sold than yours. So if you want to have all the buyer's agents in your area beating down your door for your listing, offering 3% is the way that you market to all of the agents in the area. Because when you do sell a house, you're marketing to the buyer for the most part, but you're also marketing directly to the agents who have buyers. And that's something that you might want to consider, always offering 3%. In most cases, you can check to see what the neighborhood is offering. Sometimes 2.5% is standard, but why not offer a little bit more? Incentive sells, something to consider.
Yeah, human nature. That's a great, powerful point there, Bill. So I'm a fix and flip investor, first and foremost. I'm always looking for, profitable deals, and that's the commodity that's in short supply for me. So help me understand maybe, Bill, how I could program and train you as my realtor, and what could I do? I want access to the pocket listings. I want access to an off-market deal before it hits the market. Like the stuff that needs repairs. Obviously, I'm not trying to, get a heads up on some retail-ready renovation that somebody did, but can you fill me in on like how I can leverage my relationship with my real estate agent as a fix and flip investor, or even a landlord that's buying properties, Bill?
Absolutely. I think the first things first, it's tightening up your bootstraps, getting on the phones and calling all the listing agents and REO brokers in your area, and you want to establish relationships with that person or those people. You don't just want one listing agent, you want to know all the listing agents who are bringing deals to the marketplace, and you want them to know how serious you are. So, if I were a buyer and I flip houses and I've done this, I'll call the listing agent, say, hey, see, you're getting a lot of these distressed listings in the area. And like I mentioned earlier, one situation where you always want to offer 6% is where they're bringing you off the market deals. Off the market is where the best deals happen all the time, and you want those agents in your pocket. So the first thing I'm saying, hey, by the way, I'm a real estate broker, but if you get me this property, I'm going to list it back with you. I'm giving you the commission on the buy side. I'm giving you the commission back when I sell the house, full 6%. And depending on the numbers, I may be even able to give you an agent bonus commission. So that's number one. So you're incentivizing them to bring you deals above everyone else, because less than half of the other buyers will actually use that agent again to list a property. But you have to think from an agent's perspective, one that doesn't invest full time like I do, they are commission chasers. They don't survive without that commission. So the more you can offer them, the more likelihood you have of getting that deal. On top of that, as an agent, we get calls all day long from buyers. Most of them are just tire kickers. If you want to get seriously in with agents, then you better have a credibility kit. All right, it was great talking to you. I'm going to follow up. I'm going to send you all of my information. I'll send a package. Here's proof of funds. Here's before and after pictures. Here's some of the recent projects that we've done, and just come up with a list of things so they know it's like, wow, number one, this guy has the cash. He has the experience, the track record, and this guy is serious. That right there is going to, you market yourself in that way, you'll be light years ahead of all of your competition for all these other guys that are, trying to buy the same house out there, because it is competitive.
Do you email or mail that physically, Bill?
I'm following up. I do the call. I get on with someone. It's a good conversation. I'll follow that up with an email. And then the other thing is, out of sight, out of mind, guys. You have to realize, and Dan, you know this, as a wholesaler, it's the same thing. Everybody calls you every week, or they might even call you once. Hey, keep me in mind next time you get something in West Philly. But if you're not calling that agent every single month after you strike the initial conversation and say, hey, what do you have in the pipeline? When he does get one, he already has 5,000 other buyers that want the same house. It's the first person that calls and reminds him. It's a constant follow-up situation. You have to put the time away. Follow-up is the key, even when you're trying to market yourself to agents. That's extremely key right there.
Yeah, and I think the flip side of that too, so for me, I kind of refer to a few of the people in my network as VIP buyers, and these are people who, there's a couple things that they need to do. When I call them with a deal, they need to make a decision quick. If I happen to have them top of mind and I call them, I need to call like right back immediately and say, no, Dan, it's not for me, or Dan, I'm on my way out there. What's the lockbox? How soon can I get in? And then once that buyer looks at the property, I want an offer or a decision. And if this person's like extremely interested in staying in that VIP status and sitting in front of my pipeline of off-market deals, I'm expecting a full price offer. Like if they got to go, you know, if they're used to buying something for $25,000 and I say I want $27,500 and they go the extra $2,500, it's going to pay off for them in the future because I'm going to call them on a second and a third deal and a fourth deal. So, you know, if it was a one-off buyer and they don't pay the full price, that's fine. But the one-off buyers aren't the guys who are going to profit from being in that VIP buyer relationship, the off-market deal relationship. So if you have an agent that gives you a call before a property is listed on the MLS, you got to keep up your end of the bargain, run out, see the property, make an offer or a decision not to buy that property as soon as possible. And when I say as soon as possible, on the spot, if you're able to do that, the same night at the latest, the absolute latest, the following morning, I would say, to get back with an answer. And then the other part, too, Bill, is you got to close on the deal. If you go under contract with somebody, you got to close on that deal. If you don't close on the deal, that's it. You're not going to get the VIP call anymore after that. I'm sure you'd agree with me there.
Absolutely. And you know, to go along with that, you know, be willing to put down a large deposit. That lets you know how serious you are. Typically in our market, $5,000 pretty much says, I'm buying this house. I'm not walking away from it. So don't be afraid to plop it down. Be serious. Put your money where your mouth is. And on top of that, it's a real peeve when investors are disheveled and disorganized and not timely with communications, and not only with getting out there on time, but also with paperwork. If you say you're going to do something, or if I send you a DocuSign, you know, get that back to me right away. I don't want to hear an excuse in 2 days from now that, you know, you've been busy and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, show them that you're serious and organized and have your act together as far as your business acumen, and that's will get you a long way to try to get on that pocket list.
That's a great point, Bill. So, listen, do you have any recent, you know, decent books maybe that you read that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Yes, definitely. Recently I read a book called The Miracle Morning, and it has nothing to do with real estate whatsoever. I think one of the guys who wrote it might have been an agent or, interviewed some agents. But this book will actually change your life as far as your everyday routine, time and energy management, and just having a more positive outlook, which will bring you more results in life. It's about waking up earlier, going for a run, doing a quick meditation, and just simple, stupid things like chugging a bottle of water the second you wake up, putting your alarm on the other side of the room, and just giving you a step-by-step guide to being a more productive person. If you read it and implement that book right there will change your life. I've read the 4-Hour Workweek recently. A couple of years ago, I tried to read it, and I think it went over my head. So that might be one by Tim Ferriss. It did, and I was just in a different place. But now that I've read it recently, it's like I'm having an aha moment with some of the things in that book. Anything on marketing, I think you've mentioned Dan Kennedy before. That type of stuff is awesome as well.
Yeah, it's funny. The 4-Hour Workweek, that title does no justice to the content that is enclosed in that book. Dan Kennedy makes a joke that I'm going to repeat on here. He said, it's funny, you would think that Tim Ferriss could have got the 4-Hour Workweek on the New York Times bestseller list by working 4-hour work weeks, but that's not the case. He literally ran, across the country day and night doing radio interviews, promoting his book, and it was nowhere near 4-hour work weeks that promoted that book to the top. And the reality is it's not really about working 4 hours. It's more about working efficiently. Yeah, it's powerful content. So we're kind of approaching the top of the hour now, Bill. And I got one more question that I'd like you to answer two ways. First, for the investor who's just getting started, and second, for the seasoned investor. So do you have any final jewels of wisdom to share with our listeners?
Absolutely. All right. For those that are just getting started, and this will also be for seasoned investors, but then we'll go into that as well. But find a mentor. That is number one, the most important thing that you can do if you're just getting started. Plug in with somebody who is somewhere where you want to be and offer to do something, even if it's working for free, sharing your time, get around people. There's lots of different mentors. There's paid consultants. There's, venture deals where if you bring a deal, they'll venture and they can offer to mentor you. There's companies like mine and Dan's and others that might have internships and ways to earn commissions based on some sort of performance. But even in my business to this day, I would not be where I was at without a mentor in some shape, form, or fashion, a mentor or a coach of some sort. That's number one. And be willing to sacrifice, work 7 days a week if you have to, and always remember to get outside of your comfort zone and to do things that make you uncomfortable, especially things like knocking on doors and marketing and going belly to belly. So that would be for guys that are just getting started, and maybe something a little bit different for the seasoned investor that may not have been talked about on here before is, I think that it's time, if you're a seasoned investor who has the niche, you're doing it, you're just waiting for the end to come, it might be time for you to rediscover a lost passion that has been missing for years. I used to think that I was the best for working 17 hours a day, working around the clock 7 days a week, and hustle hard, don't look at anything else, and not have a life. And there comes a point in time where, 10 years will go by and say, damn, I sure did work, and what really do I have to show for it? I mean, I have this business going on, but I haven't really had much of a life outside of that. So there's a lot of us probably going through that right now. It might be a sport. It could be spending more time with your family, your wife, your kids, your husband. It could be rediscovering your passion for camping or hiking or skydiving or going to the beach or doing something. Spend a little bit of that money, and even more important, spend some time doing some other things, and that rediscovering that passion will actually help you become a more successful investor and live a more fulfilled life. And for everyone, be ruthless with your time management and also energy management, and just keep yourself healthy, eat good, try to exercise, and work on a proper work-life balance. So, it might not be specifically real estate related, but it is business and success related for sure.
Yeah, that's key. That's really cool that you gave that for the seasoned investor, Bill. Myself, personally, I'm from Philadelphia originally, and I guess about October of last year, I looked around and I said, wow, I have my niche carved out and I'm making good money, and I have some flexibility with, the location of where I can do my business. And my daughter had lived in Chicago since, I think, 2005. She's 13 now, and I decided to move to Chicago and run Diamond Equity Investments from Chicago, and might as well start doing deals in Chicago if I'm going to be there. And that's pretty cool because, as soon as I hang up the call here, we're going out on the lake. We're going to ride jet skis today, my daughter and I, so I'm really excited. And you're so on point with the fact that that's something, that you don't want to neglect and, look around. I mean, when I decided to move to Chicago, the thought I had was, wow, if I'm on my deathbed and I made a bunch of money and I look back right now at this day and I didn't make this decision to move 750 miles away from my business, from my comfort zone, and get completely outside the box, to do that for my daughter now at a time when I could do it, even though she's 13 and I missed, like I wasn't able to be there day by day for everything. I'm here now. And it's so cool to have made that decision and I won't have to face that regret, knowing that when the time was right and I had the options and flexibility, I made the move. And I am going to also say that mentor thing, you did say something that was critical, and I think that everybody should be aware of. You have to bring something of value, in a sense, to most relationships with a mentor. A lot of times, highly successful people are busy and, number one, never waste their time. If a mentor agrees to talk on the phone with you at a specific time, don't cancel, don't miss the appointment. Be on time. If you're going to, meet for coffee, if you're going to meet at the office or whatever it is, make sure you're on time and be very respectful and grateful for the mentor giving any of their time to help you out. And, you said bringing something of value. I mean, some people have said, making photocopies or working for free or kind of interning with the company. My organization, we do 15 to 25 off-market deals a month, and for newer wholesalers that are getting into business, a lot of people see us doing volume and, try to approach us to be a mentor to them, and we'll gladly do that. But the thing of value is they need to bring a lead to our company. They need to have a seller lead on the hook, somebody that they can introduce us to, and we can kind of like work the lead together so they can see how the whole thing unfolds, but they've got to bring that lead. Like, I'm not going to bring, people that I don't know the history. They're not ready to be, I'm not going to go take tours on the leads that we generate ourselves. But if you have a lead and you bring that to our company, we'll gladly step in, help with negotiations. Sometimes we'll buy the deal and just pay an assignment fee to you. Sometimes we'll split the assignment fee. I'm not going to close on your lead and then just take the deal and run. You're going to get paid from the lead. So, Bill, if anybody's trying to get in contact with you, do you have a website or any other contact information that you'd like me to include with the show notes here?
Absolutely. So I always give out my Google cell. It can be reached anytime. It's 267-483-7386, 267-483-7386. And, be happy to talk to you guys about real estate. And if you wanted to do some business and try to figure some things out, great. For those interested, maybe in a flat fee listing here in Philadelphia, you can go to the website FSBO.com. It's FSBO as in for sale by owner on steroids.com. And that just highlights one of our 3 programs, but has my contact info and all of that stuff. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. And appreciate the opportunity, Dan.
You got it, Bill. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you having me here.
No problem.
And thank you all for listening to this episode of the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom. You can sign up to receive email updates of new weekly interviews at www.reidiamonds.com. As a bonus for signing up, I'll even send you my free report on wholesaling titled Wholesale Houses 101, How to Buy and Sell a House with No Money. That website again is www.reidiamonds.com. Until next time, this is Dan Breslin signing off.
Thanks for listening to the REI Diamond Interview. To receive the REI Diamonds newsletter and interview monthly, sign up now at www.reidiamonds.com.